journey to greatness. It's also important to ask this question: what do great people treasure? What do great people treasure? That's the question. What impact does my treasure have on my life, my purpose, and my journey to greatness? When you answer these questions sincerely and honestly, it will reveal to you the areas of life where you need to consciously reorder your treasure. You see, most times when we examine our treasures, we discover a need to reorder them. This means we discover a need to discard some of our present treasures and adapt new ones. I want to acknowledge that this is a tough process that forces you to deal with emotional and psychological issues. However, to refuse to examine your treasures is to make permanent in your life a situation that is meant to be temporary. Are you willing to risk your greatness for temporary comfort? If your answer is no, may I suggest that you approach the issue with a lot of prayers if you believe in God, with a lot of reading and multiple consultations. In conclusion, I need you to know that external forces always seek to reorder your treasure, and this can occur so subtly that it goes unnoticed until it is done. Hence, the need to guard your heart with all diligence. Thank you so much for your time. I know you have been blessed by this time, and I want to believe that I will see you next week when we take the journey a step further. Thank you.
Cassava is a vegetable that is a staple ingredient of many diets worldwide. It is a good source of nutrients, but people should avoid eating it raw. Raw cassava contains cyanide, which is toxic to ingest, so it is vital to prepare it properly. Also, there are two types of cassava, sweet and bitter. Bitter cassava is harder and has a much higher cyanide content. Most of the cassava used in the United States is sweet. In the United States, people grind cassava down to make tapioca, which they eat as pudding or use as a thickening agent. Cassava is a root vegetable. It is the underground part of the cassava shrub, which has the Latin name Manioc esculenta. Like potatoes and yams, it is a tuber crop. Cassava roots have a similar shape to sweet potatoes. People can also eat the leaves of the cassava plants. Humans living along the banks of Amazon River in South America grew and consumed cassava hundreds of years before Christopher Columbus first voyaged there. Today, more than 80 countries plant the tropical growth cassava, and it is a primary component of the diet of more than 800 million people around the world. Cassava is a rich, affordable source of carbohydrates. It can provide more calories per acre of the crop than cereal grain crops, which makes it a very useful crop. In developing nations, people prepare and eat cassava in various ways in different parts of the world, with baking and boiling being the most common methods. In some places, people ferment cassava before eating it. It is essential to peel cassava and never eat it raw because it contains dangerous levels of cyanide unless the person cooks it thoroughly before eating it. Benefits and nutritional profile of cassava. Cassava is a calorie-rich vegetable that contains plenty of carbohydrates and key vitamins and minerals. Cassava is a good source of vitamin C, thiamine, riboflavin, and niacin. The leaves, which are also edible if a person cooks them or dries them in the sun, can contain up to 25% protein. However, the cassava root does not deliver the same nutritional value as other tuber vegetables. Tapioca starch is gaining attention as a source of gluten-free flour to make bread and other baked products that are suitable for people with an intolerance to gluten. Cassava is a source of resistant starch, which scientists suggest can boost a person's gut health by helping nurture beneficial gut bacteria. Resistant starches remain relatively unchanged as they pass through the digestive tract. Cassava contains only small amounts of proteins and fats. As a result, people who use cassava as a primary dietary staple may need to eat extra protein or take protein supplements to avoid malnutrition. Since cassava leaves are a source of protein, people in some parts of the world emphasize and combine the roots and leaves of the plant as something useful. So use it for feeding animals, making medications, manufacturing fabrics, paper and building materials like plywood, making bioethanol for fuel.
Plant our cassava. We must not plant cassava when the rain has stopped, like December period. We can start planting our cassava from February, March, or April, as far as the rainfall. We can plant our cassava in two major ways. Firstly, if it is riverside, make ridges and put cassava tree you are intended to plant on already made ridges. Then put some grasses on it. The second step is to first cut all the unwanted grasses from the land you want to use. Then make ridges as far as the rainfall and start planting your cassava stem on it. The inches of stem to plant must not up to a ruler size so as to allow your cassava to have good root, because cassava did not have branch unlike other crops. Cassava in Igbo land is called akupo anu. In Hausa land it is called rogo, while it is being called ege or paki in Yoruba land. In Yoruba land, they named cassava according to their type, like ege oko iyawo, ege aboya, or ìdílé ruwa, ege dudu, ege arugbo elu, and so on. We can plant all this cassava in the same period, but we cannot harvest it in the same time because of their nature. Spraying farm with chemicals are the best ways we can use to collect our cassava from disease. Another way of taking proper care of our farm is to remove unwanted weeds regularly so as not to allow animals like rabbits to damage our cassava. My advice for farmers is that farmers should try and take care of their farm very well. They should try and remove weed when necessary in order to yield good results. Like if farmers take care of his farm very well, he can see 2 or 3 motos of cassava inside 1 acres of land. Apart from all these foods, gari, eba, apart from all those foods derived from cassava, we can still use cassava for other things. Its work cannot be overlooked, including the pillar we peel from cassava. Even cassava stem and leaves can also be used in herbal wood.
Polyvinyl chloride and other industrial products. All these products can be made from cassava root depending on the area people want to go to with, that is gari processing. Gari processing is very profitable business in Nigeria. Majority of families in the east, west, middle belt and some parts in the north consume gari every day. This involves frying the fermented and separated cassava from the chaff after the water in it has dried up. Fufu production. Here you find the cassava roots in a container full of water and allow a period of 4 days within which it has fermented. The fermented cassava roots are now separated from the chaff using a sieve. The cassava is now ready for cooking. You can also process starch, abacha, amala, and some others. Note: in planting your cassava, you should not overlook the diseases that can attack your cassava crops at any time before harvesting, like root rot disease that cause cassava root decay, as well as anthracnose and mosaic diseases.
Well, good morning, viewers at home, and welcome to Monday morning edition of AM Cafe from OSBC Television, Ileawiye, Okebale, Oshobo. My name is Adeyemi Aboderi. Come this Saturday, July 16, the people of the state of Osun will go to the poll for the 2022 governorship election. And all the parties and their candidates are already strategizing ahead of the D-Day this Saturday. The election will hold across all the 30 local government areas of the state. While political parties and their candidates and members are strategizing ahead of the day, some people are going about preaching messages of peace. Yes, messages of peace to ensure that before, during, and after the election, the people of the state experience peaceful atmosphere devoid of rancor. Yes, and one of the organizations involved in ensuring that all the political parties and their candidates approached the election peacefully is the Kuka Center in Abuja. The organization has been moving around the state of the Federation to preach messages of peace to political parties and their candidates to ensure they conduct themselves peacefully and sign peace accord among themselves. Today on AM Cafe on OSBC Television, we are hosting the Executive Director of Kuka Center and Head of Secretariat National Peace Committee. He is already in Oshobo, the Osun State capital, ahead of the election. And in 2 days' time, they are going to do something that will be strategic towards ensuring a peaceful election come Saturday. I will not mention it. The man in the studio will talk about it. Let me welcome Father Atta Bakindo, the Executive Director of Kuka Center in Abuja and Head of Secretariat National Peace Committee on board AM Cafe this beautiful Monday morning. Father, you are welcome on board.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, Kuka Center.
Yes.
What is Kuka Center all about? Let's start from that.
Okay, the Kuka Center is a non-governmental organization founded by the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto, Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, who is a very popular figure in this country. It was founded in 2008, and 2012 it was now fully registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission. It started its operations in Kaduna State, but it moved to Abuja in 2014. And because of its activities in terms of research and community engagement and preaching peace, supporting transitions and stability in communities that have experienced very serious violence, in 2008, it officially became the Secretariat of the National Peace Committee. The National Peace Committee is headed by the former head of state, General Salam Abubakar, who successfully handed over power in 1999 after a brief stay in office, as against the run of play where many people expected that every general will remain in office for a very long time. But he handed over power. But since then, he has become very, very active in supporting peaceful elections and peaceful transition. So he's the chairman of the Peace Committee. General Salam is the chairman, and Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka is the convener. And there are members, the Sultan, Cardinal Onekon, Dangote, and so many other people are members of the Peace Committee. And these are people who have worked at the highest level of government, even in corporate communities and societies, but they have dedicated their time, their energy, their resources without any pay, pro bono, working for peace in this country, particularly during elections. So these are the things that we basically do at the Kuka Center. So the Kuka Center is the Secretariat of the National Peace Committee, and it's a privilege for us to be hosting that Secretariat.
And since the establishment of the National Peace Committee, the Kuka Center, what has been your achievement? Let me ask that so far.
Okay, you remember before the general elections in 2015, there was a lot of tension in this country because then the incumbent, President Goodluck Jonathan, a Southern Christian from a minority group, was running against the biggest opposition of the All Progressive Congress, Muhammad Buhari, a Muslim from Daura. And you remember the insults, the tension, the anxiety, to a point that certain analysts, even from outside this country, were predicting, including the American, Department of State, were predicting that Nigeria was going to disintegrate. So at a point, even certain state agencies and organizations constituted by law, people simply lost trust in the police, in all these state agencies, and they were now appealing to a separate group that can offer moral intervention to ensure that the elections don't snowball into serious violence and conflict. And I remember that late Kofi Annan, the Secretary General of the United Nations, together with the former president or chairman of the Commonwealth, flew into this country and had a meeting with the security advisor of Goodluck Jonathan and even some key stakeholders. And at a point they say, you know what, we really need certain serious elders, respected stakeholders to come together to help support this election because the tension was too much. And that's when Bishop Kukah was now saddled with the responsibility to assemble prominent Nigerians. And it is this group that Bishop Kukah assembled that eventually transformed into what we call now the National Peace Committee, headed by General Salam Abubakar. And in 2015, they drafted the first peace accord, where Jonathan was brought to the table together with Muhammad Buhari. And both of them now signed the peace accord to accept the outcome of the elections as far as it is adjudged to be free, fair, and credible. And in 2015, Jonathan went on after the elections to concede defeat. And all the tensions and everything simply melted into thin air, and the country was able to move forward and to progress. And that was one of the biggest achievements of the National Peace Committee at that level. And then they intervened. And you fast forward that to 2019, we didn't only now sign the peace accord at the national level between Muhammad Buhari and Atiku Abubakar, who contested against him. And besides, we had about 93 political parties in 2019 with 71 presidential candidates. Many of them turned up to sign the peace accord. But the peace committee didn't only sign the accord at the national level. What happened was that there were off-cycle elections in Bayelsa, in Kogi, in Ekiti, in Anambra, in Ondo, Edo, and all these places. And you remember very well what happened in Kogi State, the kind of violence, and even one of the women political party candidates for the governorship was mercilessly beaten up. And we as the peace committee were afraid. We didn't want this kind of thing to happen again at the state level. And that's why we went forward. We were in Edo State. You remember in Edo State, the tension between PDP and APC. But we had to go on. We had a meeting with different key stakeholders, including the Oba and the governorship candidates. And all the analysis about Edo came to pass. Everything went peacefully in Edo because of the intervention, of the National Peace Committee. And the same thing happened in Ondo State. We were there. And in fact, the worst was in Anambra State. IPOB was not going to allow the elections to happen. There was going to be gunfighting, and literally the governorship candidates had their own independent security outfit because of fear. We were there. We met with every governorship candidate. We had meetings that led up to the signing of the peace accord, and Anambra State went on peacefully. We had the same experience in Ekiti. And of course, we are doing the same in Osun State. And our prayer is that Osun State will equally go on peacefully, just like the other states. And that is where we are. At the Peace Committee, we don't have any personal or individual interest. We just want to make sure that ordinary citizens in Nigeria, and especially in Osun State, can go out peacefully, exercise their right, and come back home. Nigerians have suffered a lot, and we don't want to see that.
Well, Father Bakendo, looking back at the election that produced President Muhammadu Buhari in the first term, the concession of defeat by then President Goodluck Jonathan, could it be as a result of the effort of your committee, National Peace Committee?
National Peace Committee contributed significantly, and we cannot say it was solely because of what the Peace Committee did. I don't think so. It was the collaboration of everyone, of INEC, of ordinary Nigerians, international, diplomatic partners. Everybody made their own contribution. But it was the Peace Committee that brought Jonathan and Buhari to the table to meet throughout the campaign period for the first time, face to face, to sign that accord, and even to hug and take pictures. In this country, optics, what people see, is very, very important. So for the Peace Committee to bring these two, big candidates together to sign that accord, and for Nigerians to see them hugging each other, that doused the lot of tension that was evident among their followers, across the country. So we contributed significantly, but of course we are not the only players in the game.
But you are a major gladiator, a major player, a major stakeholder in ensuring that the candidates, come together ahead of the election to sign a peace accord. But let's look at your committee, the National Peace Committee, bringing the parties together to sign a peace accord. On paper, it doesn't take much to sign peace accord, but practically, how do you see gladiators, candidates, political parties embracing peace in an atmosphere, in a society, in an environment like Nigeria, where election is seen as a do or die?
The Peace Committee members would have just folded their arms, packed their bags, and gone home and rested. They have worked at the highest level of government. What again are they looking for? They are doing this job pro bono. And I know it's true that the actual thing people see is the signing of the peace accord. That is all. But then there are so many other things that lead up to the signing of the peace accord that is done by the Peace Committee that cannot be open to public, at least for now. We carry out a lot of back channel negotiations, private meetings, phone call, calling these people, to attention. And we work very closely too with INEC. In this country, our problem is not lack of law. It's how to implement that and how to hold people accountable. And I think for me, it's really been very, very helpful. Number one, it has brought to the consciousness of the politicians the seriousness and the need for peace in this country. And number two, the members of the Peace Committee at their level, people like the Sultan, Cardinal Onekon, Bishop Kuka, General Salam, will leave their home and go to Ekiti and come to Oshun and come to Edo and go to Kogi and sit down, demonstrate to these politicians that this thing is serious. It is as serious as refusing or trying to prevent the loss of one single life in this country. And so I think that laying out the seriousness of violence and the impact of election, even before signing of the accord, are some of the things that the Peace Committee members can do. I know people will question how then effective is the signing of the accord itself is. For example, for us, the accords are documented, number one, and number two, they can actually be used as evidence in the court of law during any judicial process that is actually taking place. And we are working very closely, as I say, with INEC to ensure that INEC can now use this accord as part of its own accountability mechanisms when some of the laws are actually, violated. But what we are doing at the Peace Committee is simply to appeal to the moral conscience, of people, to constantly remind politicians that they have a responsibility and an obligation, even in conscience, to make sure that there is peace and there's harmony, during elections. So we expect that if people lose the elections, let them accept according to what they have signed onto, rather than call their followers, onto violence. I'll give you one simple example. What happened in 2019 when the former speaker Dogara, won the election, Yakubu Dogara, but there was some insinuations as if he was not going to be given the ticket, and already there was agitations in Tafawa Balewa in Bauchi State, in his constituency where he came from, and it was serious. We had to rush, not only to speak to Dogara, but also to appeal to the people of his place. There's an accord in place, and based on our intervention, everything went on smoothly. Otherwise, the kind of violence and the killing that would have taken place in Tafawa Balewa would have been serious massacre. So I think that preaching peace is very important. Somebody standing up to the politicians and reminding them is important. It's not very easy for normal working ordinary people on the street to constantly have access to these politicians. You need a certain people with a certain level of convening power that can actually reach out and have access and remind these people about the seriousness, of this situation. I think what is left for us in this country is to see that people are practically and actually held accountable, even if one life is lost. We want to get to that stage, and I think once we get there, people will begin to take these things very seriously.
Well, welcome some of you are just joining us on the program AM Cafe. My guest today is Father Atta Bakindo. He's the Executive Director, Kuka Center in Abuja, and is the head of Secretariat National Peace Commission. They are in Osun State presently to ensure that the Saturday governorship election in Osun State is conducted under a peaceful atmosphere. They will bring all the candidates, the gubernatorial candidate of the party together to sign peace accord in due course in a few days' time. But Father Bakindo, looking at previous election, the concern of many people in Nigeria is the process of the electoral process. How peaceful they were, how fair they were, how acceptable they were. Many elections have been questioned in the country before, and for peace to reign, the electoral process must be seen to be free, fair, peaceful, acceptable, and credible. Apart from bringing the candidates to the table to sign a peace accord, what is your committee, the National Peace Committee, doing to ensure that the electoral process in Nigeria is devoid of manipulation?
I don't like to sit here and keep blaming the past. I can blame colonial masters if I wanted to. I can blame the impact of military rule, on this country if I want to. But I think that everything that happens around this country impacts on the electoral process. Whether it is poverty, whether it is collapse of the economy, whether it is kidnapping, whether it is insecurity that we see, all the kind of banditry, the herder-farmer conflict. These conflicts happen before, during, after elections. But entirely the impact is there on the electoral, process. So the Peace Committee mandate specifically is just beyond elections. We also intervene in other non-electoral, problems that we have. For example, in April 2021, when there was serious kidnappings of school children, especially girls across the country, especially in the north, what the National Peace Committee did was to quickly call together all the service chiefs, with the permission, of course, of the president, and all the members, the key stakeholders, Minister of Defense, Chairman of Governors Forum, both the North, the South. We had a very serious meeting. The question was, how do we assess this insecurity? How do we make suggestions and present those policy recommendations to the president in such a way that we can improve? The reason why we did that was that if this insecurity is sustained, it will have a huge impact on the entire electoral process. Either people going out to register, people going out to get their PVC, people lining up to vote, people going out to campaign. All these things will eventually affect the electoral process. Or number two, if the insecurity continues, it will have an impact on the economy. When there's an impact on the economy, jobs will be lost, kidnapping will increase, vote buying will increase, vote selling will increase. So whatever you do, there is an impact. And the Peace Committee mandate is beyond just coming to sign the peace accord, coming to help, but also how do we mitigate the insecurity that is happening even before the election. When there was serious conflict in Kafanchan, the peace committee members went down to Kafanchan. They visited almost every local government, spoke to the key stakeholders, conducted their own research, came back and presented the report to the Kaduna State government and said this is what can be done and should be done. But you know, they are not a law unto themselves. All they can do is to provide moral intervention and moral recommendation. There are other agencies constituted by law. They have that responsibility to intervene. But I think that the peace committee has done a lot. But my point is that eventually electoral process is an electoral process. But it cannot on its own function. It needs some level of synergy within different sectors of the country and of the Nigerian structure of governance. So if the economy is bad, if there is insecurity, if there's lack of compliance, all these things will affect the electoral process. So for the peace committee, we extend our intervention beyond the election to even consider insecurity in other areas of government, so that when there is security, when the economy is booming, people have regular income, life has improved, people will simply go out and make. It is only in this country that maybe some few African countries, let me be careful, that during the election, the whole economy is just closed down. People are at home going to vote. You go to UK and other places, life is normal. People just walk in, press vote there and just move on. But here we have to line up to register. Either there's no network, the machine has collapsed. It's the same thing in the market, the same thing in the bank, the same thing in the church. We also experience during election. So I think that we still have a lot to do for our democracy to grow to the standard that we want. It may not happen during your time and my time, but that of our children, and it's a hope that we can never lose.
The ingredients for a free, fair, transparent election, they are there. Are we following it? Are we observing the ingredients?
I mean, all the laws, as you say, are there. All the aspirations are there. But Nigeria's elections and Nigeria's democracy is very transactional. We are still at a stage where it is a transaction. Otherwise, tell me where on earth in this world where people line up to vote and somebody is standing with money to give it to them to buy. So all the laws are in place, all the aspirations are in place, but it's like everything has stopped working in Nigeria. The only thing that is working is politics. You want to get money, go to politics. You want to get employment for your children, follow one politician. And until we sort all these issues out, it's still going to be difficult for us. But as I say, I'm not a politician, I'm a Catholic priest. My job is to preach peace, and it is the peace that I want to preach. I want to call on ordinary people in Osun State. Please come out. Don't allow yourself, don't allow your children to be bought by vote. 1,000 naira, 2,000 naira is not going to help. We really want to speak to our politicians. People are suffering in this country. The poverty is too much. Amongst my people, we say, when the load is heavy for the donkey, even the donkey can bite.
Yes.
So if the trend that we see actually continues, I don't know, we are going to be in deep trouble in this country. So I pray that beyond the voting, politicians will provide good governance. Ordinary things.
We are coming to that, Father Bakindo. I was privileged to be in Edo State to cover the election for my station. I was in Ondo State. I was in Ekiti State. You mentioned the new trend, which the politicians are now following, vote buying. I saw it in Edo. I saw it happen in Ondo. I saw it happen in Ekiti State. Then you begin to ask, how did we get here? Most politicians now don't see, campaign as much important as, wait for the election day, bring money, buy vote, and all other things, are settled. I know you must be seriously concerned with the new trend in Nigerian politics. How can we get out of this mess? It's a mess, and it continue to become a recurring decimal from Edo to Ondo to Ekiti and so forth. We are praying doesn't happen in Osun State, but nobody can foreclose it happening in Osun State. What is your take on this and your appeal to the people?
I think, first of all, every context is slightly different. In Kogi, Bayelsa, and Edo, our biggest concern was insecurity. Because at that time, we had intelligence, and our research evidence showed that there was high level of distribution of light weapons moving around the country, and looking at the level of kidnapping. And especially in Kogi, that was what we were concerned, about. When you fast forwarded that to Anambra State, we were very concerned with IPOP and the sit at home and what the impact would have been on the elections. But thank God to our intervention, IPOP withdrew the sit at home, and then everything went peacefully. To be honest, in Ekiti, we were shocked at the level of vote buying. We were really shocked. But of course, if you look at the indicators, it's not something to be shocked about. A lot of Nigerians on the fringe, at the state level, in the local government, people have become very dispossessed, much more impoverished. There are lack of jobs, and there is this narrative and perception among ordinary citizens that, election may be the only time. If I'm not going to get good governance, let me then get the money. So let me just send the vote at the end. And because people have not felt good governance, literally, look at the level of insecurity. Look at our roads. Look at the way Nigerians are living. I was just walking into your studio and I was watching on one of your channels. There was rain somewhere. Is it in Lagos? People are literally living inside water with all the disease, the mosquitoes. And how can Nigerians live like this? We don't deserve this. We don't, in whatever aspect. This country has the money. I live overseas. I know the kind of houses Nigerians are buying. I know the kind of investment Nigerians have overseas. Why can't they repatriate all this stolen wealth and make our people live? Look at in Osun State, for example. You have rainfall, you have forests, you have farmland, very fertile. You can walk into one of your forests and pluck a banana you didn't plant. God has literally given it to you. How can we turn all these resources God has given us into something that is beneficial for our people? When I lived in Egypt for 3 years, I hardly saw rainfall. In a year, there might be 2 or 3 drops of rainfall. They use the Nile to irrigate the land, to farm in order to feed the nation. The first time I saw strike in Egypt was on bread. People were striking. They went on strike because of bread. You see bread stores, people lining up for 3 days to buy bread. It's like we line up here to buy fuel. So God has given us everything. And that's why we need to appeal to the politicians. Trust me, Nigerians are suffering. We don't deserve this. God has given us everything. But you know what? We waste these monies on just a select class of politicians. They have big convoys, 30, 50 cars. These cars have to be fuel. They need policemen. They have to pay all these aides and workers. They wear expensive clothes every day. Every single day, a politician will change 2 to 3 clothes. They have all kinds of allowances. They fly around in private jets, and Nigerians just sit there. It's like all of us are working to feed this little class of people. And I think as Nigerians, we should be tired of this. We have to wake up and call these people to account for the common wealth and common patrimony that they have been given, to take care of. So maybe gradually the fault is ours as ordinary Nigerians. We haven't stood up to these people. These people have found us gullible, found us usable. They therefore, use us with a very deep sense of impunity, and they don't care. And maybe it's time for us to wake up and hold them to.
You are in Osun State already.
Yes.
And the election is holding this Saturday. Why are you here? What are your mission?
Well, our mission is to support the people of Osun State to have a very peaceful, transparent, credible elections, to have the opportunity to choose a leader that they want. And we are here to simply just do that. So my team successfully and very professionally have mobilized all the candidates. On Wednesday we are signing the peace accord, and all of them will come to recommit themselves to a very peaceful and transparent process. And so after the election, if anything goes wrong, we can now use that to hold them to account. And I think for me, this is the little support the members of the National Peace Committee, General Salam, Bishop Kuka, Cardinal Onekon, Dangote, and others can offer to the people of Osun. People of Osun have suffered. They have suffered so much, and we hope that beyond just electing a good governor, that governor can in turn provide the things that the people of Osun State need. And I think that is the little contribution we can give to the people of Osun, and that's why we are here.
Apart from your team that are here, who else among the personalities that you have mentioned will also be here on Wednesday for the program?
And we are expecting Bishop Kuka, we are expecting the Sultan, we are expecting some other members of Peace Committee. We have serious issues of flight, and it's the time for Hajj. Flights are cancelled in and out, and it's the Salah break. Your election is very close, to the Salah period, and if you go to the airport, it's a whole lot of hassle. We had to book, weeks and weeks ahead of time. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult for us to be here. And then traveling by road, you can see the kidnapping. Probably they are looking out for big people even to kidnap so that the money can be more. So it's all part of the problem that we are trying to solve. So I think for me, whether they are physically present or not, they should be able to speak to us, with the modern technology, but we are expecting a lot of them to be around.
Yes, and apart from signing the accord, I know you'll be here during the election as well. What other things will you be doing, during the period?
We have a group of NGOs that came together and established what we call the Situation Room with Yaga Africa, with Policy, Legal and Advocacy Center, the Kuka Center, and so many other organizations and NGOs. Their job is to monitor, the elections throughout up to the announcement, of the vote. If you look at Yaga Africa, for example, they have volunteers in all the local governments who will monitor the situation and report back. Is there any vote buying? Is there violence at the polling unit? Did voting materials arrive on time? Was there any interference? Were ballot boxes stolen? Were the reports changed? The voting results, were they changed? All these things are collated and then analyzed, and then a report is made and given back to INEC to help INEC, improve. So we are part of the entire team and our job. But then also for the Peace Committee, we have a special team that has been set up to monitor the signing of the Peace Accord itself. After the Peace Accord has been signed, there are clauses committed to vote buying support of women, to ensure there's no violence and all that. So we now keep monitoring the political parties and the political candidates. Are they saying anything that is violating the spirit and the letter of the accord? Are they doing anything, either through press statements, through their interviews, through their campaign speeches, during rallies and all that? What exactly are they doing that is violating the letter and the spirit of the accord? If we have any violations of that accord, we quickly have a meeting to remind that candidate or to remind a particular political party, right up to the time the election results are announced and after.
Well, taking a cue from your experience in Ekiti State, what was the situation like generally from Ekiti government?
So, for example, when we got the result, especially of the vote buying, we were a bit, disappointed. So, the first thing to do was to offer and then to issue the press statement and then to remind, the particular. And we also share the information, with INEC. And for us, it's a big lesson now going towards the general elections next year in 2023. So what we are going to do is to first of all convene all the political parties, especially after the Osun elections, the executives and everyone, and sit with them and explain to them our experience. And the biggest thing we are worried about right now towards the election is not even the vote buying itself. Vote buying is serious. We are now very concerned about fake news and fake information and fake online behavior, and how that will impact on peaceful elections. So we are going to carry a series of trainings with political parties and stakeholders so that our job is to mitigate and ensure that no one single life is lost.
It's lost. Well, we are almost done on the program this morning, AM Cafe, and my guest is still Father Atta Bakindo, Executive Director, Kuka Center in Abuja, and the Head of Secretariat, National Peace Committee. As we prepare to sign the National Peace Accord on Wednesday, what will be your appeal first to the candidates, to the political parties, and to the electorate?
My appeal is very simple. During the mobilization, the content of the peace accord was given to every political party and every candidate contesting for the Osun State governorship elections. I want to appeal to them to take their time and read the seriousness of the content of that accord. I think it is so important and is so comprehensive and very encompassing. It includes everything that will guarantee peaceful elections and give the ordinary citizens of Osun State the confidence and re-engineer their trust in the electoral process. So I will request the political parties to please read the content of the accord. Beyond reading, I'm appealing to them to attend the event. It's very important. If other key stakeholders, including even the owner of FA, will live where they are to come and attend this event, it's important for them. It is the only contribution we can make. And let our people see that we are committed to a peaceful and transparent process. So I appeal to them and their followers to come en masse. The event is barely 1 hour, 30 minutes. It's not going to last long. It is going to be, very strict, very straightforward, not too much protocol. We finish and they can go back, to their campaign. So I appeal to them to please come and sign this accord, because a lot of key stakeholders will also be present, including INEC, to witness their own commitment to a peaceful, transparent, and a credible, process. And finally, I would like to appeal to the people of Osun State. It is your state. You don't have any other state. And you cannot depend on politicians alone to develop this state. You have to, first of all, come out and vote. In voting, have that dignity and conscience not to sell your vote. You are too big for 2,000 naira, for 4,000 naira. And I think it's important for us to begin to realize that. So do not sell your vote. And eventually when you elect your governor, please hold him to account. Hold him to account for the campaign promises that he has made to you. And come out and conduct yourselves in a peaceful manner. Make your vote, cast your vote, go back home. Discourage your children from being bought over. Do not allow them to carry arms and to carry weapons. Let them not fight or kill for any politician. All these politicians have their children overseas in very expensive schools. So please let us conduct ourselves in a peaceful manner and let us support a peaceful and credible electoral process in Osun State. And I wish the people of Osun a very successful elections on Saturday.
As the venue of the peace accord, as a venue, you have a venue already?
Yeah, we have a venue. We are just trying to finalize it this morning. So I don't want to, but it will be made known, and it will be announced even on your TV. We really have a venue in place here.
Okay. I want to appreciate Father Atta Bakindo, the Executive Director, Kuka Center in Abuja, and Head of Secretariat, National Peace Committee, for finding time out of your tight schedule in Osun State to be live on OSBC television studio. And we hope to have you on the radio tomorrow as well. Father Kuka came here with a team of, heads, which include Mr. Azubike Clinton, is the media officer for the Kuka Center, I believe. Yes. And Mr. Ezrom Ajaya is the project officer for the center, and the media assistant to Father Atta Bakindo, Mr. Benjamin Undu Bunku.
Yes.
I think I'm right. Yes. On behalf of the executive producer of the program AM Cafe, Lasun Oyibayo, and my producer, on the program. I want to appreciate everyone for finding time. Shola Ogundaya, thank you for being there, my producer on the program, and the entire transmission crew here in the studio. My name is Adeyemi Aboderi. AM Cafe returned tomorrow morning. We thank you for being there, and good morning.
Mi-temps ici au stade.
been replaced. Over the top, and Ajibade was able to get onto the end of, goes beyond Unumunu, who was waiting for it, and with Chenakanu, the goal poacher deluxe. Not much time, cramped for space. The Pichichi winner in Spain. Hoping Botswana can potentially do them a favour. Shubazi. Very good. Is a quality striker from start. They conceded the penalty, but it was an absolute the mighty Super Falcons. Theoretically would have given them an easier draw. Hoping Botswana can potentially do them a favour. So it seems like we are going to see a change for Burundi. Lisa Irangundo, just 16 years old, Falcons. Irakoze, who conceded the penalty but was an absolute star in the 3-1 loss to South Africa, is being replaced owing to injury. Quick recovery, Z, nickname of Asisat Kushola, Super Z. Finds herself injured and out of this tournament with a grade 2 medial collateral ligament strain, so speedy recovery to the Pichichi winner in Spain. Somebody who... So it's
a wonderful morning to you, sport fans, and welcome to Sport on OSBC TV. There we okay, Bale on Oshogbo. I am Omotayo Aldebon, and of course, that was the highlight of the match between the Super Falcons of Nigeria and the Burundi. Yes, the Burundi national women's team. Of course, it's ended in a 4-0 thrashing of Burundi yesterday. The Super Falcons in the net front. Of course, Ikechukwu Uchenna Kalu getting a brace in that encounter. Ajibade putting a name on the score sheet as well yesterday, with Peace Effie also getting a goal in that encounter yesterday. The Super Falcons will now face the indomitable Lioness of Cameroon in the quarterfinals on Thursday. And we hope that they will be able to do better and qualify for the semi-finals of this ongoing competition, as the Super Falcons, of course, they are through to the quarterfinals of this year's edition. Of course, as it stands right now, we understand that the Super Falcons will be playing against Cameroon. Yes, I will be playing against Cameroon as far as the quarterfinals is concerned. On Wednesday, Zambia will play against Senegal, while Morocco will play against Botswana, and that those matches will be on Wednesday. And on Thursday, Cameroon will play host to Nigeria, while South Africa will take on Tunisia. Yes, either way around, anyone that wins between Cameroon and Nigeria will face the winner between Morocco and Botswana, as well as Zambia and Senegal would face South Africa or Tunisia to book a place in the semi-finals. Remember that 4 semi-finalists would be able to represent Nigeria as far as the Women's World Cup is concerned. And next year, this also serves as a qualifying match for the FIFA Women's World Cup. And of course, I would see how things pans out in that encounter. And of course, I was still talking about another Nigerian player, talking about Joseph Ayodele Aribo. Yes, the coach of Southampton, talking about Ralph Ansehuti as lauded Joe Aribo, and yes, that stepped him to be successful in England. Yes, I remember he's just put pen to paper for a 4-year deal with Southampton, talking about Joseph Ayodele Aribo, making it him another Nigerian that will be seen in the Premier League next season. Remember that Dennis Emmanuel is relegated with Watford, but talks are still ongoing as to whether they would Newcastle are looking to get his signature, but I would see how things are panned out. Very quickly, let's talk about Nigerian Professional Football League before we cross and forge ahead to Europe this morning as Aqua United played out a 2-2 draw with Abia Warriors yesterday. Enyimba were defeated at home by Dakada FC 2-0. It ended. Gombe United pipped Enugu Rangers. Katsina United defeated Plateau United. MFM of Lagos were defeated away from home by Kwara United. Lobby Stars defeated Wiki Tourists 3-2 in that encounter. Nasarawa United pipped Kano Pillars 1-0, while Niger Tornadoes defeated Atlant FC of Owerri 2-0. Shooting Stars did the needful against champions Rivers United 3-2. It ended in Ibadan yesterday, and Sunshine Stars were defeated by Remo Stars, and as things stands, Kano Pillars have relegated from the Nigerian Professional Football League, followed by Atlant FC of Owerri. Both Atlant and Kano Pillars have been confirmed relegated from the Nigerian Professional Football League. And very quickly this morning,